we've got to today.
I'd just like to return to the predicament in which the Sikh community find themselves, because I think there's a great injustice here. Paul Kang said that they had applied to develop a site in Mawson, and the community of Mawson had objected to such a facility or community centre being developed in the middle of a residential area. And obviously that point of view of that community found favour with the government, and they were not allowed to build there. And so they purchased this land here, which was in an area not zoned for residential development. So you would agree that they did the right thing. And then blow me down, 12 months later, what are we seeing? The government's changing the rules and the goalposts, and it's all going to be residential. I just don't think that's justice.
Thank you.
Just to follow on that point, I think the Sikh community is not just an isolated community, it's a part of the overall Australian community, and looks at itself as part of the whole community, not just an offshoot or something. We are always willing to sort of, negotiate and see how things can be done better. As Paul Kang has pointed out, on one side there has already been agreement that with the buffer of 3 rows of trees, we have agreed to sort of let the development go. The point at issue is just a small part of the ridge, not the whole of the ridge, just a small part of the ridge which is adjacent to the Baha'i and overlooks the Sikh premises. I think only 5 or 6 houses or something, 5 houses, something like that. And that's the area where both the Baha'is and the Sikhs have pointed out that if something can be, arrived at. The Baha'is have offered to purchase that land and turn it into a park or something for common use. I think that's a fairly reasonable request, and that should be acceded to.
We've got that now. Twice.
I've just got a lady back here who had a question before, and there's so many hands going up, it's very hard to keep track of these questions, which is be very patient.
I was concerned, and I am concerned about what appears to be the density of the new housing that's being proposed for the top part behind the CIT. On a scale, it would appear that the existing blocks would be 1 block to about 5, because you can't even see the lines, they're so fine, which is going to put, say, 7 families maybe, on the size of one of the current blocks. And that, to my mind, doesn't leave room to grow, doesn't really encourage families. It's just, they're minute. Can we get garbage bins down the side? You can't in Gungahlin. You can't get a wheelbarrow down the side between the fence and the houses. They just seem to be so narrow, those blocks. As I said, they don't appear on the map versus the blocks that are currently there. What is the size, scale-wise, for the proposed new blocks versus the old one?
There'll be a range of scales, as there is in all communities of Canberra. Take a typical suburb in Weston Creek. What you find is as you go up the hill, because of the engineering associated with servicing and grading of blocks as you go up a hill, those blocks tend to get larger because there's excavation, there's cost associated with it, and there's servicing cost associated with it. So they tend to get larger. As you go down the hill, it's more efficient to develop the land, and you can get more blocks into that land. Similar to existing suburbs in Weston Creek, will be the same philosophy in terms of delivery of land in the new areas of Molonglo and North Western. In terms of the size of those blocks, the the standard block 20 years ago in Weston Creek would have been 650 square metres. That would have been a small minimum standard residential block, 650 square metres. People can't afford that now. They can't afford a standard block of 650 square metres. For a range of reasons which I could barely explain, let alone understand, those blocks, people are now looking for what they can afford. Affordable housing is part of that, it's part of that affordable housing strategy that this government's got. So it's looking at a range of housings going from a smaller lot, and the smaller lot is generally located around those areas, and the high density areas are located where there's higher amenity and also public transport, so that the people who can afford to get in those blocks and those houses are able to either walk or have access to public transport, or at least have higher amenity or what they offset by not having in their front or backyards. As you go up the hills, the blocks get slightly larger to accommodate the ease of construction. And
can we get a few numbers there, please?
The government's got a guideline. In terms of areas of high amenity, it's got a range of housing types going from compact lot, which range from about 250 square metres up to, depending on how large the blocks are, could be 800, which is now a large block. No, that's the block. Well, when I talk about a block, I mean what someone would purchase, not including furniture or roads or anything.
Try and get some questions from people up the back there, so we can include everybody.
With these the developments further up the Longlow and I think Coombs and Wright Route were some of the names mentioned. What sort of community amenities are being planned in those areas? Small shopping centres, or what's being planned, or are they going to have to be swallowed up and catered for by Coolman? They're going to have to travel out to Belconnen, they're going to have to travel into Woden. What's being planned for that? It's difficult enough now, certain days of the week, certain times, and we're fairly new to the area, and not quite 3 years, and we found it very difficult. At some points, you said earlier, and I don't disagree with you can't do much about the situation of accessing medical care. But it took us 6 months to be able to get to see a doctor. You're encouraging, the government's encouraging people to move to Canberra, but basic amenities aren't available.
I really can't answer the medical services question, so I'm just going to...
I agreed with you that
I'll just let them go through the keeper. In terms of other facilities for Wright and Coombs, initially you can imagine that the new residents in this area would be utilising existing services in Weston Creek. Ultimately, they'll have their own services, and we've identified here the potential for a local centre. It's located on the north-south arterial, and where our local centres in some of the suburbs in say, Weston Creek.
You say ultimately, how far away is that?
Well,
2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Pull the figure out of the air for us.
There's a lot of demand for housing in south of the lake, and certainly in Longlow, which is our understanding. So I would mention that within a 5-year period, there'd be a fair bit of development going on in those two suburbs. Part of that would be the delivery of local services, including local supermarket, video, DVD, shop, takeaway, those sort of activities, newspaper, milfoil, that sort of activity. In terms of school facilities, we've identified locations for potential school locations here and here. So in terms of whether they're public school or independent schools, we've identified what we think are the major services, such as schools, such as commercial retail. This is a location that we've identified along that north-south arterial where there's an opportunity to support the Stronglow Forest